Welcome back to the Horror Master YouTube channel. Welcome back to City Collection update number 11. Yeah, number 11. Which, my God, I can't believe we're doing this for 11 episodes already. And funny enough, 11 is my lucky number. But regardless of that, yes, I have finally got a couple of CDs to finally show up to your people. Which, if you have not subscribed, not followed my Instagram, you kind of get more of an inside depth more into my collection. But regardless of that, yes, I finally got a couple CDs to show you guys. Which the last time I did an update was like maybe 2 months ago, which I do apologize for that. I haven't really been buying a lot of CDs as of late, but hopefully as the time goes on in the next couple of months, I can buy a bit more CDs, and that way I can show you guys what I've gathered over the next couple of months. But I gotta say, for the amount of CDs that I actually got this time around, it is kind of an okay stack, if I do say so myself. You know, but regardless, like I mentioned before, hopefully you guys really dig the new findings that I've gathered the past couple of 2 months since I did my latest collection update. Which, you know, like I mentioned before, let's get into the goodies. So the first album that I have actually right here was an album that I forgot to put on the latest CD collection update number 10, which I completely forgot to pull out of the shelf and show it to you guys. So I'm gonna show it to you right now in this video. And of course, I'm talking about Marilyn Manson's Smells Like Children EP. Of course, this EP is really mostly known for the Eurythmics cover of Sweet Dreams Are Made of These, which that song is one of the most haunting and creepiest songs you're ever gonna heard. Live is a well amazing song, but if you see the music video, which has been voted probably like the most controversial, not the most controversial, like the most scariest music video out there, there's a good reason why it's considered the scariest music video of all time. Maybe top 5, maybe top 10, but it's up there as like one of the scariest music videos of all time. But if you go deeper into the album, we get some killer ass tracks like Everything, Everlasting Cocksucker, Diary of a Dope Fiend, White Trash, Dancing with the One Legged, I Put a Spell on You, which is a great cover by Screaming Jay Hawkins. Just like I mentioned before, the early beginnings of Manson, of what this would eventually transform into, of course, Antichrist Superstar 2 years after, I think 1995, yeah, 2 years later, which of course that just made Manson the megastar that he is right now. Of course, with what's happening right now with the current situation, I do see people kind of wanting more of Manson, so I was pretty excited. I actually got this at my local Second and Charles, which is a shame. It kind of closed down, which I won't be able to buy more CDs there. But it's a good little piece to finally add to the Manson collection, which you guys don't know, I'm a huge Manson fan. I actually did a rank them all of their entire discography and to this point. But Manson's still Manson, whatever you think of him. Next CD I have right here is an album that I'm gonna be eventually gonna be talking about in my controversial album series. Which, if you're not seeing that series, I really suggest you all to watch those previous videos. And of course, I'm talking about Jane's Addictions, Nothing Shocking. Of course, the album cover, like I mentioned before, I'm gonna go more deep dive into that in a future episode down the road. But for the purpose of this video, I'm not the biggest Jane's Addiction fan when it comes to their kind of music, but the early stuff is kind of pretty good. When you have songs like Jane Said, which I think is probably like one of their songs that kind of make them into rock radio hits, Summertime Romy, Mountain Song, Ted Just Admit It. I mean, regardless of what you think of Jane's Addiction, they really got some killer ass songs. And like I mentioned before, that album cover, which I'll go more deep into my controversial album series in the future. But it's a great little album that you want to jam sometimes, where you're not wanting to listen to something like probably like Possessed or something like Cannibal Corpse. Something you want something calm and peaceful, something just to pass the time with friends. So if you're not listening to this album, go give it a listen. You will not be disappointed. Next album in the collection is a band that a lot of people might think that I'm not a big fan of, which kind of true, kind of not. I'm a big fan of their early stuff. Their latest stuff really is not the best. Of course, I'm talking about Papa Roach's Infest. This album was mostly known for, of course, Last Resort, which I remember when I was in middle school, late elementary, early middle school years. This song was all over the radio. I mean, all over the radio, especially the censored version. Cut my blank into blank. This is my blank resort, which was really funny. But you know, a lot of people give Papa Roach a lot of shit, and I do see why. But the early stuff is pretty fucking good, especially this album. Like I said, Last Resort, Between Angels and Insect, which that's a killer ass guitar riff. Snakes, Revenge, Never Enough. Like I mentioned before, I'm not the biggest Papa Roach fan, but they can write some killer ass albums. And that album cover, I mean, if you're cockroach phobia, I don't know what's the phobia for being scared of cockroaches, you might not want to get this album. But, regardless, it is a pure ass, kick ass album. Next album in the collection is probably the first pre-order I did of this year, and it's an album that I've been wanting for the longest time, especially from the little sneak peek back in 2020, which that was like 3 years ago. My God, of course I'm talking about the debut album, but of course Ville Valo with his brand new album Neon Noria. Of course, if you've seen this channel before, you know I'm a huge Him fan. Him is like probably one of my top 10 favorite bands of all time. And when Ville Valo announced that he was finally gonna release a solo record under the Ville Valo monarchy, I was hell of excited. Of course, Ville Valo released the Gothika and Nathikama Volume 1 back in March of 2020, kind of giving us a sneak peek of what's eventually going to come. Which for me, that was like the biggest thing in the world, because unfortunately I never saw him live. I never had the opportunity to see him live. I actually became a Him fan right, like literally like after they broke up. So for me, this was a breath of fresh air, and some of the songs from that EP were included in this album, which that was a really, really nice move for Ville Valo. But the entire album in itself, it is a fucking masterpiece. If you're a huge Him fan and Ville Valo as a whole, you're gonna dig this album. Everything you love about him is there. Everything that him represents is there. Songs like Love Lady, the title track, my favorite song of the album, Internodia, San Train Saturated, of course, from the Gothic America EP, Vertigo Eyes, Echo Let Your Love. Like I said, if you're a Him fan, love metal fan, you're gonna dig this album. And I'm really excited to see Ville Valo live in a couple of weeks. So I'm hell of excited even more to finally see him live. Like I said, I'm really excited for Ville Valo. And hopefully, if I'm lucky enough, I can meet the guy. If I'm lucky enough. But, never say never. But again, listen to this fucking album. Probably album of the year contender as of now. Next album on the list is an album that a lot of people, a handful of people know about this, that which I'm going to share right now. Of course, I'm talking about Anathema's Eternity. Again, y'all know my history with Anathema. The first 5 albums are great to me. After that, they're shit. I'm never going to listen. I've listened to them, but they don't hit as hard as the first 5 albums. What's unique about this album that a lot of people don't know, which if you follow me on Instagram, you might know, but a lot of people don't know this, that this album was released on the exact same day and exact same year I was born. So literally, the day I was born, this album came out. It was kind of like a prophecy that I was going to be a metalhead from the very fucking beginning, and I was going to be a huge fan of Death Doom, which I eventually did, and loving Anathema, the first 5 albums actually. But, everything about this album is fucking amazing. Of course, it's not my favorite Anathema album from the 5 that I like, but it's probably down in the middle because, this is where they still had elements of Death Doom, but they weren't as growly. They began to be more soft-spoken, more gothic elements, which I don't mind on that. If they would have gone that transition, kind of like how Canatonia did it, from kind of Death Doom to more gothic, and Anathema, that sound would have been amazing. But no, they decided to go from Death Doom to kind of Gothic Doom to full-on Radiohead kind of sounding, which I know I'm blabbering them up, but regardless, this album is fucking amazing. And how many people can say that an album that an album that was released on the same day and year you were born is in your collection, which that's an interesting kind of thing. Let me know down in the comments if you have an album in your collection in the exact same year and exact same date you were born. I want to know that question. I want to know that answer. But yep, Anthem Eternity, great album. Next album in the collection is, of course, the first time I actually listened to this band. And I've been wanting to listen to this band for the longest time, but it always just keeps going in the back of my mind for some reason. Of course, I'm talking about Dead Spell Omega's Fast Ite Melodic in Ingrid Atram. I think I butcher it for all the. I'm not much of a Latin kind of guy, but I'm gonna get it out of the way. I know the controversy with Dead Spell Omega, but sometimes you gotta separate the artist from, of course, the art. In this case, I kind of did that, but Death Spell Omega is one of those bands for the longest time I've always wanted to listen, but never had the chance to listen to them for some reason. Until one day I decided to, you know what, let me give Death Spell Omega a shot, and I was kicking myself in the ass for not listening to Death Spell Omega earlier because this album fucking rocks. Probably their biggest album and their most notable album. I mean, that album cover alone. Look at that album cover. Probably one of the most iconic album covers in the longest time. But you know, Death Spell Omega is one of those bands that doesn't follow the traditional black metal riff, chorus, kind of thing. They kind of go all over the place, kind of like a big ass story. Which, you know, this album is part of the trilogy of albums that the one before, the one after, which I need to get those eventually. But you know, Death Spell Omega is one of those bands that, yeah, they're controversial, but my god, they can write some killer ass fucking tunes. And this album is probably the one album that a lot of people recommend to new Death Spell Omega fans, which I am recommending to new Death Spell Omega fans. Next album on the collection is, of course, an album that my good buddy Levi, aka Trash Medic 99, is gonna really love, that I finally got in the collection. Of course, I'm talking about Opeth's Still Life. Yeah, I don't have that much Opeth in the collection. I think I just have Opeth Still Life and Blackwater Park, which I need to work on that discography soon rather than later, but it's still life. I mean, it's still live, like I mentioned before. It's fucking Opeth. Everything Opeth has done is like to perfection, to match to everything. You know, it's fucking Opeth. Songs like Moonlight's Vertigo, Face of Melinda, The Moor, White Cluster alone. My god. I mean, if you're not listening to Opeth, what the hell are you doing? Listen to everything they've done, from Orchid to Blackwater Park, Still Life, My Arms Your Hers. Everything they've done is fucking perfection. You will not be disappointed with the amount of stuff that's not Death Spell Omega, Opeth done. And my god, look at that album cover. It's beautiful, yet sad, haunting, but it packs a punch. Next album in the collection. Well, actually, I'm gonna say this for probably after talking about these two albums. These next two albums, kind of three, are kind of from a band that you all might know called Brujeria, which, if you have seen on my Instagram, I actually had the opportunity to see Brujeria live, and I got to meet Juan Brujo and Coco Loco live. So that was a really, really big deal for me because Brujeria is one of those bands I've been wanting to see live for almost 10 plus years, maybe more. So I finally had the opportunity to see them. And when I was there, on their merch table, I was able to get, of course, their latest album, Poncho Aslan, which, again, everything about Brujeria's unique, odd, and like I mentioned before, being me part of Mexican American, kind of knowing what they're talking about, a band singing in Spanish and doing a whole bunch of stuff in Spanish. To me, that's like a win. It's kind of like when Germans talk about Rammstein. It's the same thing with me talking about Brujeria. And Poncho Aslan, it packs a punch. I mean, when you have like songs like Bruja, Santongo, Isla de la Fantasma, Culpa de la Mujer, No Obseten Imitaciones, Ángel de la Frontera. To me, those songs speak well because it talks about, basically the band speaks to me because everything they've written, past, and will write is something that I've seen in Mexico a whole bunch of times. So Forgive me for my gloriness of brujeria, but it's fucking brujeria. And while I was doing that, I was, like I mentioned before, I was able to meet Juan Brujo and El Pinche Peach, and they were nice enough to sign my Matando Güeros CD, which I was happy. And I try not to fanboy because, I don't try to fanboy because you don't want to make them uncomfortable. They're just normal human beings. But the fact that they were touring 30 years of this album, which if you haven't seen my controversial album series on this episode, I suggest you gotta watch it. The fact that they toured this album and played it in its entirety, to me that's like a fucking bonus. And like I mentioned before, meeting two of the original band members from this album and they fucking signed it, that's like boom. It's kind of like how I met Rick Ross and Terry Butler and they both signed my Leprosy CD in a previous collection update. But I just was mind blown that I actually got to meet them and they signed my CD, which, oh my god, I like I mentioned before, I know I'm blustering about brujeria and I'm almost done with brujeria, but regardless, just wanted to show this off because it's fucking cool. And the last, well, not really the last of the collection, the last album in brujeria, because I have another brujeria album right here, is their sophomore effort, of course, called Raza Odiada. I got this on eBay like maybe 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. But of course, this is when I was still in my brujeria phase, and I'm almost done with brujeria. I just need one more album to complete the discography, which is Brujerismo, which I will eventually get it in the future. But this album, Raza Odiada, was kind of a not really a mixed bag, but an evolution in their sound. And some of the songs that they play on this album were played when I saw them live, like Raza Odiada, Pito Wilson, Echando Chingazos, Cañones Locos, La Migra, Cruza la Frontera. Of course, one of the songs that they wrote, El Patron, is dedicated to Santos Escobar. No, not Santos Escobar, not the wrestler, Pablo Escobar. Pablo Escobar, not Santos Escobar, Pablo Escobar. So, to me, Raza Odiada was not as grindy as Matando Güeros, but it still packs a punch. And I love the fact that the parental sticker is in Spanish. I don't know if you can see it right there. It's kind of written in Spanish, but it's kind of a bit of a bonus for me. But regardless of that, it's fucking brujeria. Like I mentioned, after seeing them live, they've gained my respect. And I'm almost done completing their discography, which hopefully the next time, the next CD collection update I do, I have that album in the video. And last but certainly not least, the last album in this collection update was an album that a lot of people are gonna be shocked I didn't have in the collection, and I finally had the audacity of buying the album and have it in the collection after all these years. Of course, I'm talking about one of the most influential death metal albums of all time, Possessed Seven Churches. Yeah, you might be wondering, what? You didn't have it before? Yeah, like I mentioned before, there's so many albums that have yet to get there so iconic, like Seven Churches. Seven Churches, there's a big ass debate of, who was the first death metal? Was it Seven Churches, Scream Blood and Gore? That debate might be a future video idea, but for now, this album, my god, is one of the greatest albums in the 80s, one of the albums that kind of helped influence the extreme metal kind of things. Of course, this was in 85. The guys in Possessed, they were still in high school when they recorded this on Easter. In Easter, I think Easter of 85, I think they were recording this album. They were still in high school, which is fucking amazing. Songs like The Exorcist, Burning in Hell, Fallen Angel, that intro with the bell, that's so haunting. The song Death Metal, what a great closer. Pentagram, everything about this album was fucking gold. The fucking album cover, look at this fucking album cover. How much metal can you get? An upside down cross with a fucking Seven Churches. What more can you want from that? And of course, the reason I got this album was, one, I didn't have it in the collection, and two, I might have the opportunity to see Possessed live with Owada and the Black Mariah Hopefully I can see them live in May in San Antonio. And if I do, if I can meet Jeff, I would love to meet Jeff Becerra, and he can sign my, of course, my Seven Churches CD. I will really bonus, but you know, it's fucking Seven Churches. If you have not yet to listen to this album, go listen to this album right now. And that does it for this video, guys. I hope you guys really enjoy this new CD collection update. Like I mentioned before, hopefully next time the next CD collection update comes up sooner rather than later. I'm still working on my controversial album series. I'm still working on those videos, which thank you guys so much for that reception. Like I mentioned before, there's a lot of things I'm cooking in my mind, what you bring guys to the channel. Hopefully I can bring you an album review sometime in the near future when the right album just presents itself and I want to talk about it to you guys. Let me know down in the comments what albums you want me to get in the future, what ideas you want me to do, what videos and all that. Like I mentioned before, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, everyone, and until next time, stay metal.